Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Welcome back. Happy Friday. Welcome back to F3, Faith Family Focus. I'm Faith. This is my Dad Shafer. We are excited to bring to you our fourth episode of F3. In our last two shows, we covered the effects of loss on a person's development, widow and child, and how to surround yourself with healthy people in your circle. We had a great guest, and my uncle, Michael Suggs. We were glad everyone loved the two shows. We got a lot of great feedback. But today, something I'm really excited about, we start the new series, Making of a Champion. Dad, I know this was something you brought to me. You want to dive into it?
Well, I think when we first actually started talking about this show, we thought this would be a real good topic to kind of navigate through because, as we talked about in our initial episode with Girl Dad, hashtag Girl Dad, part of our development, part of my development was around sports. And I just felt that it would be a good topic, a few topics to begin to start talking about, and that's healthy development, sports, love for sports. Sports builds so much of the foundation of your character, and of course, I can kind of navigate back in my childhood, but just like I share with you, you always got to keep me on track because I have all of these years forward to assemble, and so we only have an hour, at least this show. We plan on really deep diving into this important topic as it pertains to sports, parents, creating a healthy environment for their kids, creating that fire, recognizing their talent, supporting their talent, getting out of their way. And it was very, very different. You heard my stories as a kid, growing up in the 60s, but we didn't have all the distractions that the kids have today. I mean, I was passionate. It was one of those things you didn't have to instill upon me. People who knew me knew that I was passionate about sports, and not just football and basketball, baseball, track. Here's my first trophy. The first trophy was in marbles. I knew I could show that, but I loved it all. But that's one thing that as parents, as an early age, you expose your kids to so much. And neither one of my parents were really big athletes. But they supported me. I was that kid that was just always out there. As we navigate this, I want to begin to tell how important as a parent it is to be that architect of that foundation for a kid early on. And for me, playing professional football, playing college basketball, playing college football, I had to really understand early on that necessarily didn't translate into being a good coach.
Right.
And so when you began to start, as an early age, I knew I had a daughter, but and I knew that, ideally you could be the next Maya Moore or the Maya Angelou or Michelle Obama, but I figured you'd probably be, okay, so maybe be the first football player, right? But early on, we began to, it was a part of our life. It was a part of what you saw. I mean, not only that, but you saw you played t-ball, right? You're in dance force. You did a lot of different things. There's Devin also t-ball. Okay, he's gonna kill me for showing this picture. But as an early age, you realize that it was something that was important. So it was a part of our life, So, when you begin to start showing signs of, and here's another thing we'll deep dive into. And give me the look if I'm wandering off, but finding the balance too, because not only did you see me take you to get your first mitt, but you also saw me help you build your farming house. You saw me practice your flute because I played the clarinet, and those are the things that as a child, not only was I this athlete that loved sports, but my parents had me involved in a lot of things. And that's the one thing that I want to say to parents, parents who've had kids, parents who have grandchildren right now, that their kids, their parents, their kids are coaching also. But allow that balance in their kids' life.
Yeah.
Allow it, embrace it, because what? Soapbox Derby, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, band, everything. And you also, I mean, that was just in our DNA. That's what we did.
Right.
But as I began to start coaching you at a very early age, I had to figure out ways to, okay, everything that I know about sports, okay, I had to learn how to translate that into learning and teaching, because a lot of the parents that I were kids were coaching, they were young enough to be my kids. I was those three little kids. So not only were I coaching, the kids, but I was coaching the parents and embraced it. So this topic I really, really love, and I just so excited about it. We're gonna walk down this hallway, and I've already got some commitments from some of your former coaches, some of my former coaches that are going to tap into the topic. So for the next 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to be a very fun topic, and I just going to ask parents because this is important as it relates to building a total kid, scholar athlete.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. It's so important. It gets back. I'll touch on this one more time, but one of the most powerful movies I ever seen was Remember the Titans. And I watched it. Was during the really difficult times, which, by the way, was the time that I grew up in the early '70s when we had all the racial tension right now. And he walked, he made them jog to the Battle of
Gettysburg.
of Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at it, he said, we don't come together on this hallowed ground, we will perish, right? In the state of where we are today, right, it took sports. It took a movie like that, right, to help bridge that because of all the characters that you learn while playing sports. So at an early age, it's important that the parents begin to build that foundation and help.
Yeah, and I think that you're the perfect person to kind of lead this off because you are the super dad, over programming superstar. And I think you love sports and you instilled that great quality in us that we love it. And I think the best thing that we got out of it wasn't our skill level or the places we got to go or the educations we're going to have or Devin's going to have and I've already received. It's definitely the personality, the traits, the leadership qualities, the team aspects that we took away from it that was like the best part that I could honestly say. And there's probably things that each year was a new lesson. Each year you were able to kind of talk to us because I said this in previous shows is you've always talked to us like we're adults and you've always instilled adult conversations with us. We were never not in the loop on things. So with sports, we were able to really navigate a lot of human situations, how to interact with these people, how to hold a conversation with this person, how to confront someone without offending someone. Those type of things we all grasped from sports and how to become a great leader and how to become a great person, a great friend, a great teammate, etc.
Right.
So one thing that I want you to dive into is why is it so important? What is a parent's role in a scholar athlete's life growing up? What are things that they can ask themselves? How do they mold? How are they the helper? Because obviously kids need those parents to invest in them and put them in certain positions for them to be great. How do you start?
Well, there's I could talk on this topic. We actually talked briefly about it last night.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, again, as I shared before, it was a humbling experience. So not all parents were professional athletes or college athletes. And all of a sudden, they see their kid take an interest in a sport, because you do, whether it's soccer, basketball, baseball, you begin to take interest. And as parents, how do you recognize that? So for us, I think it wasn't a choice. I don't know if I gave you guys a choice, but it wasn't say you got to go play t-ball. It's hey, honey, let's go get your mitt to play t-ball. Okay, let's go get your bat, right? And I got you involved in that. I got you involved that you were excited about it, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, even though I never, in my wildest dream, thought you'd be, this D1 athlete, captain of the Duke basketball team, I was in the moment. I was enjoying being a dad. I was enjoying being a father. And, as parents, I think you need to embrace that. Okay. We have so many distractions. Your kids have so many distractions at an early age, which is
Yeah.
very, very different than it was when I was growing up. And I think at an early age, 4, 5, 6 years old, asking the question, do you want to play this sport? And you get no. So,
Hmm.
to me, it was assumptive. Guess what we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're going to go get a flute. We're going to go do this, right? Because it was a way of life. They watched the way we live, right? I think for parents, just need to recognize that. And, remember at a very early age, you don't have to dive into travel ball because all of a sudden you start watching your
Uh-huh.
friends. Your friends got kids or an AAU ball. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, they get hyped up and they get
Yeah.
excited about it. And then they get all gun ho about it. And
Yeah.
they begin to, live vicariously through their kids because, again, not every parent was a great athlete.
Right.
If they were a great athlete or a good athlete, they probably had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And don't take your bad experience and translate it into a way that you are going to navigate what your kids experience.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right? So
For sure.
that's huge early on. And there's a program called Positive Coaching Models, which is what I learned. It's one of the things I did. Although I was this great athlete, I really began to do my research on sports psychology. I didn't do my research on how to communicate, how to connect, how to talk to parents.
Yeah.
As you well know, I was very organized. I had a parent handbook,
Hmm.
a book. They had very specific things that they needed to do to create a healthy environment. So I was very conscious about what I needed to do to make it a healthy experience. And the parents got to understand that not every experience is healthy, but if you can keep it fun early on, just keep it fun, right? And let them try everything because at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, you're not going to ever look on the sideline and see a college coach. You're not going to ever see a pro
Hmm.
scout, right?
Yeah.
You know, so just get out of the way and let them have fun and keep it a
Yeah.
positive experience, and then simultaneously have them do other things. And it gets back to also other things, making sure that they're accountable for their education.
Right. Right. And I think that it's important that we talk about this all the time is to create a safe space and create a fun space, and that's how you kind of start the balance. And obviously, for me and your relationship, we started off having fun. We tried every sport there was, and it was kind of a part of our relationship was ingrained into the relationship. And I think that was so awesome for me because that's how we built our relationship. And then when I got older, that's when we focused more in on, okay, development. Let's add coaching to the program. Let's add people to our program. Let's figure out how we can make this journey get you to where you want to go. And then we had to discuss, where do you want to go? And then when we had these conversations, we're like, all right, well, I want to play Division 1 basketball. I want to play in WNBA. I want these are my dreams at the current moment, and that helped you kind of mold my path in a way,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, you had the money, you had the resources to kind of put me in these opportunities, for me to get where I wanted to go.
Right,
And
right,
having you be supportive was probably so helpful and probably key, maybe like 60-70% into who I am and the career that I was able to have.
right, right. How did you? Do you remember how you felt very early on? At what point in time did you really figure out that you had a passion for basketball?
I love this question, and I did an interview a couple weeks ago with a former trainer of mine, Matt Miller, with M14 Hoops, and he asked me that same question, like, when did it become fun? When was it like something you really loved to do? And people joke around all the time when I say this. When I realized that I was getting good, like when I realized that I was starting to kind of see myself each day, each year get better and better, and start to kind of separate myself in a way, from my peers, and I was able to be in better, on better teams and in better crowds, and then I started playing with the boys. That's when I really started to enjoy it, because then it became kind of like a puzzle. Like every day I was trying to find the next piece, and every day trying to find like the next challenge. And that's kind of like in my personality. It's constantly looking for a challenge. I love challenges. I love competing against somebody and trying to figure out how I can grow today. How can I grow this hour? And so I think that's when it really started to click and really started to become, something I was molding and something I was enjoying, instead of something that was kind of like trying out,
Right,
figuring
right,
it's
right.
something you've placed in front of me, because we've tried all different sports, and I have shut some down. Like we did softball. One practice, it was not it. It wasn't for me. It was too much standing around. You remember that? Like we
I
showed
do.
up, and I looked at you in the car, like, "Dad, this is not for Faith. Like I can't do this. There's not enough running. Everybody's exhausted." And then soccer, I was like, "Dad, I hate this because there's too much running." Like there, it was in, but like I was able to communicate with you about
Right,
like, I don't think this is the one for me. And obviously, even though I still didn't like it, we still kept going and we still tried to finish out seasons and try new sports.
right, right,
But, and we'll get to that later, is like, when do you narrow down on the one sport? But I think that it started to really get fun for me in basketball, because I started to see that all the work I was putting in and was starting to come out of it. And then also I was in a kind of in a great time period, because women's basketball, I was able to look up to great women's basketball players, and I was obsessed with like, oh my gosh, WNBA, oh my gosh, Tennessee Lady Vols. I was like in it because it was on TV all the time and it was broadcast all the time. So it was something to really fall in love with, for
right,
sure.
right. What would you say to kids that see, you remember some of the kids that you played with the Lakers and in the comments, So what would you say to some of those kids that did not continue on, that may not have had a great experience, you saw you had visibility to some of the parents who did not support them.
Yeah. Well, I think that one, we had great parents. You did a good job of that always, even from a young age. Like you created the parent handbook and like what's required for you to act being part of this program. Like this is a rec league. Like these are like kids who like signed up. Their parents are making this is like recreational basketball, and you had like the parent handbook, and
Right,
you had like have your kid here 15 minutes early. You were instilling qualities, and regardless of like if these kids took basketball to a high level or not, they were getting something out of the experience.
right, right.
And that for me is pretty crazy cool. Like when you get to you've molded somebody somehow, and one, that's the purpose of sports, the vehicle to take you places in life and to make you somebody great. And you kind of instilled that on every person you meet. But it was great because even at a young level, you laid out qualities and traits that kids could learn and kids can kind of like mold into. So when they were done with the experience, they honestly were one step ahead than other peers around them.
Right.
And I think that regardless if they had played or not, they had taken something away from that experience. And I kind of think that's the purpose of sports, when you are with people who know what they're doing.
Right, right.
And I think that the kids learned, but also parents learned, and you learned, and I learned. And it was always a great learning experience. It was never just something that we did.
Right. Well, it was a challenge because you talk about my intensity, my level of intensity.
Uh-huh.
I translated it into want to. You got to understand, I played coaches with my high school coach, who hopefully will be on this show. He's a Hall of Fame coach. Lou Holtz,
Mm-hmm.
who's a Hall of Fame coach. Dave McClain, who's a Hall of Fame coach. I played against some wonderful coaches, and Keith Doherty. Okay, I learned from them. I learned from them, and it was one of the things, one of the qualities that I am blessed with, is that they had that level of intensity, not because they wanted to win.
Yeah.
They had a level of intensity because they wanted you to be the best version of yourself, the
Right.
character, the scholar athlete. And so that was my foundation, and I had to really learn how to translate that,
Yeah.
To younger parents and younger kids, where they
Mm-hmm.
understood it without overwhelming them. So I did some tweaking. I know that you were probably my experimental person,
Experimental.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely were. But I mean, there were times you would say, Dad, you don't have to make a point that you're coaching us harder than you coach me up. because I didn't want to be favoritism, right? So, and it was very difficult. But as we got older, I began to again get out of my way and let you take it. And that's the one thing I need to tell parents. There's at some point in time where you have to get out of the way. Once you figure out that they have a passion for something, get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to control it. Get out
Mm-hmm.
of the way and find out where your path is. And that path might be just loving them unconditionally, no matter what kind of game they play. Okay, if they want to go to this camp, find out if it's a good camp. It's not a money grab. We talk about money grab. There's a whole bunch of because we get this euphoric ideas of okay, if I go to this camp, well, you'll hear that conversation from all of a sudden your kid is really good. But all of a sudden you have people coming at you. Come to my camp and you'll be an all-star
Mm-hmm.
for $1,000, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you do your research. But those are some of the things I had to learn. And as I got more and more experience raising you in this world, I
Mm-hmm.
think I found some humility, and that's what parents need to do is remember you need to do that because I had to at some point in time say, wait a minute, I need to be dad.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be coaching
Mm-hmm.
and find and trust me people that
Yeah. Yeah.
take that.
Yeah. And that came out probably later on in my career too, is when you finally were able to step back and you kind of just were able to trust who you put me in the hands with and who you had also, and I think this is important, you formed really great relationships with the people that I was around. And I think that's an important thing is you form relationships because when you can form these relationships, you can trust better and you won't be as overbearing. You won't overstep.
Right.
Nobody wants it over. Coaches hate overstepping parents. Coaches hate over communicative parents at the end of the day. And it's easier when you have the parents who just once in a while, hey, appreciate what you're doing. Hey, it's not why didn't you play my kid?
Right.
Why is so and so's kid playing more? It's more like what can I do to help my kid? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's helpful. And when you have these great relationships with the people that your kids are around nowadays is every single day, it's helpful to just trust the process and not try to enforce a process that's instilled in your brain of how your child's life and your child's journey is supposed to go. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to understand. You're investing the money. You're paying $1,500 half the time to have your kid in a program that's supposed to be a top-notch program in the state, and you're supposed to have your kid looking because they instill this idea that kids supposed to get recruited by colleges in sixth grade. You had your kid supposed to be like the ranked kid in the state, and you want them to be the greatest, and you want them to go get exposure, and it's like, first of all, no college coach is looking at a sixth grader. No one's looking at these stupid rankings on websites. Just enjoy the process and hope that you prepare enough so that when you get to that point, your kid has enough qualities, has enough skills, has enough everything to be
Right.
able to take the reins and go.
Right. Right.
That's really what it's about. You're preparing to strengthen them to the point where they can just take over themselves.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And, yeah.
okay. Go ahead.
Well, I think that that's important because sometimes parents overstep too long and they can burn their kids out. And I know this is the one thing I really wanted to dive in today is the burnout
Mm-hmm.
because nowadays there's so many resources and so many experiences for these kids to get into. You have preseason practice for high school, you have in-season high school practices, you have postseason workouts for high school, and then you start AAU, and AAU starts through the summer. Then you have the July exposure period for basketball, which is nonstop travel. Then you dive into preseason again, and nowadays we add personal trainers to the mix. You add personal skill workouts and all these type of things. Is over programming in a way, and it's nothing wrong with it because I did it all,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just you look at it and you can see like these kids are going 4 games on a Saturday, sometimes 1 game on a Friday. Then they come back up after they finish pool play and they go Sundays and they dive into 2 more games for tournament play. Then they come back home the next day. They go into practice and prepare for the next tournament, or they prepare for school practice. They prepare for those type of things.
I
So
remember that was a
yeah,
lot.
it's a nonstop schedule, and it's like, how are these kids? And now that I'm removed from it, and I'm like really looking back, and I spent 4 years at Duke, where you're required to have an off day. I'm like, how the heck were we doing this? Like, how were we going play at 9 o'clock, play at 11 o'clock, play back to back 11, 12, then come back and play at 3. You're in the same jersey all day, You're eating food from like whatever's around in the gym, like your legs hurt, and then you go home to the hotel and come right back the next morning and you start tournament play where you play the same team you normally played the day before.
Right.
Like how are you like how are kids supposed to? It's almost impossible. It's crazy.
Right.
And you're supposed to assume like they're young, they have the energy, and it's like at the end of the day, it's not their bodies and it's not their stamina. It's the fact that at the end of the day, like, kids want to be kids.
Right.
And if you can love the game, I loved the game. But at the end of the day, nobody wanted to play the next day. Nobody wanted. We just wanted to get it over with and go home. And
Right.
as parents, do you see that? Do you guys were you guys noticing?
They
Like,
don't do it sometimes.
yeah,
So hold that thought for a second. Let's take one step back, and I want to touch back on when is it a good idea for kids, because playing multiple sports, I think, builds character.
yeah,
I think for me, I played football, basketball, I
yeah.
played football and basketball in college, and you know, programs, coaches put a lot more pressure on parents to get kids to commit at an early age. I mean, 9, 10 years old, which is ridiculous, right?
Uh huh.
So, what would you say is a good time, um, and when would a parent recognize that um,
Time for one sport.
time for one sport?
You know, let me think about this one because it's so important. You're like the biggest at people don't know, you're like the biggest like do everything you can until you fall over type of person. Like you play three sports in high school, two sports at the division 1 level in college, and then where for us, like we were over programmed to do three sports, two sports, one sport, constantly had something on the side. One, it was so helpful to have those multiple sports because they all transcended through each other. Our athletic ability heightened, our mental state heightened. We were able to take one thing and place it to the other. We were able to really distinguish that we liked one sport over the other. Like that's important. We were able to make choices. Our last show, we talked about how do you navigate and guide your kids to make their own choices to develop. How because you can't force things. So by you placing at a table with 6 cards of different sports and we were able to kind of try each in our own way, we were able to really separate from okay, soccer really isn't for me, dance really isn't for me anymore because I needed to commit to this. And you kind of see like what am I good at, what is so much more fun, what are all my friends like to do, and you know what I'm saying. So you start to realize who you are developing into because you have so many endless opportunities and many choices. And when your kid, it's kind of like when they get around that mid development years of 13, 14, 15, kids really they should know by then. Like Faith, what's your favorite sport? Basketball. Devin, what's your favorite sport? Football. You kids know, and because they really love it, it's like their favorite color. It's the kids make choices. There's not a people don't get in blurry gray areas until they get too old because then we have too many opportunities and we don't even know what to pick. But when kids are young, they know what they like, and when they do, that's when you should start to be like, okay, well, how about we go to this elite camp? How do you feel about that? Is that somewhere you would like to go? What schools do you want to go see? Because at a young age, you don't have to worry about colleges, but you're also going on these trips where the kids get to spend the night and they get to be around other coaches and they get to be more developed and they learn and meet new kids. So that's where I met half the people I played against through college was camps. And that was when we really targeted in on kind of basketball. We kind of put more of our investments and resources in basketball. We spent our time driving to basketball. And I think that it was a healthy time, was right before, like in the middle of like middle school when I was trying to figure out, like you get older and you start being more independent because that's when your choices are actually like sticking. And then high school was really when I wanted to commit to it because I wanted to be better. I wanted the time that I could have spent over here to be for that. And I think that we were able to make that decision together because we communicated openly about what I like to do, etc. And I think that was so helpful. But at the end of the day, you preach on it, have your kid in multiple sports, we were thankful and we were very blessed that we had you to kind of force us to try every sport.
Right.
And that kind of helped us find our own paths. Like I remember for some time, we didn't know what sport Devin was gonna do. He was like in both. He was with basketball, he was football. We didn't know if he was gonna grow more. We didn't know if he was gonna be able to play in football. We didn't know what position. So when he got to high school, we were like, we don't even know if he's gonna be good. Like we don't know where this is gonna go. And then the moment, and like I said earlier, the moment he started getting better, the moment I started to get better, and you kind of start to see you're growing into your body, you're starting to figure things out on your own. You start to enjoy the process of challenging yourself, of making small steps each year, small steps each practice. That's when you know, okay, this is my sport. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to use this. I want this to be my car that I drive to the next destination.
Vehicle.
Yeah. Right. For sure. That's what it was.
You really helped me with Devin.
You're muted.
Okay. Sorry about that. Some insight on when I wanted him to play basketball last year, and you gave me some insight on helping us navigate through that.
Yeah. So people don't know it's with our relationship, Devin. I'm like the mediator. I'm the middle between the two sides of the war all the time. And you are activator, our strong personality, our doer, fixer, solver, everything. You like to make sure that we are not missing out on opportunities. We're not, you don't want us to ever have any regrets. And for you were like, Devin, you should do this. 1, to stay in shape. You should run track. 2, you should do it because you haven't done it yet. You should do it to try something new. And 3, because it's in your DNA, you should have fun. Devin came to me and he was like, I don't want to run track. I don't want to exercise at all, to be honest with you. I just want to focus on my craft. I want to focus on football because I'm going to Yale to play football. And I'll be there in a couple months. And I want to work on my throwing. I want to be with my throwing coach. I want to work on my own. I want to lift. I want to spend the time to try to get ready for the next level. And also, when we talk about burnouts, he was tired.
Right.
He was tired. He had just finished his season. He didn't want to dive into, because we talk about your day and age. We didn't have the personal trainers. We didn't have the extreme speed camps. We didn't have the nonstop one-on-one practices. Nowadays, kids have that. So when Devin was in football season, he was with his throwing coach. He was working out. He was lifting. There was so much more on his plate that comes with a season, which is great because that means he was going to be prepared for the next level.
Right.
But by the time he was finished, he was like, I just want to sit down.
Right.
I want to play my video games. I want to just be relaxed for once. I don't want to study a playbook. I don't want to try to figure out new things. I just want to be a kid for a second and work on my craft because that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to use as my vehicle for the next level.
Right.
And I had to come to you as a parent, and I wanted you to see, like, hey, 1, he's already picked his craft. This is his road now, his journey. And for you were kind of able to see that a little bit. And I also was like, Dad, his body has gone through a long season. His body is exhausted. His body has been beat up on. Maybe we take this time to recover. Maybe we take this time to kind of do the small things that, like stretching, or we're just focusing on his throw accuracy, stuff like that, like his game IQ, that type of stuff maybe we could do while he runs and stays in shape. But this is a moment and a great opportunity for him to take the game in his own hands.
Right.
Because another thing I tried to point out to you, the next 4 years of his life, they own him. His schedule is going to be their schedule. There will never be an off day. That he will be constantly on the Yale football schedule. That he'll constantly be on Yale football academics, Yale football lifting times, Yale football study hall, Yale football games, practices, morning conditioning, morning stretching, and stuff like that, where they constantly have stuff on his plate which is a lot of times where kids burn out. He's going to have to be able to take what he took in this small time where he kind of took it on his own and he made his own decisions and he wanted to take his passion in his hands and really just get better at his craft. He'll be able to take those habits he formed and kind of be able to self balance the load he's about to walk into.
Right.
So I think that it's a perfect opportunity right now, even though he probably just sleeps all day. Yeah, you need that face. He he right now is forming habits, mental habits that'll create him ready for the next level.
Yeah. We also know that basketball too.
Yeah,
Yeah. And because, basketball, obviously, people tell you it's probably my favorite sport. And for me, and this to what I say to parents, I wanted him to play because I wanted to watch him.
Yeah.
Right. And you articulated and you gave me some insight, as a parent who has had the experience, all those many years of experience when it comes to your own child. Sometimes you have to think differently. And you really helped me with that. And that's that communication that I think parents and kids should always have, is that constant dialogue, because, Dad, what happens if you get hurt? What happens if this? And you gave me sense to, well, I didn't have to worry about that, but it was different. And that's a part of me learning how different it is today than it was back in the early 60s. Right. And it was eye opening. It was loving. It was powerful, and it's as good. The level of intensity that I have, I know what it takes to get there, but I also know what it takes to staying there and being successful. And how that translates, how I'm able to communicate that is something I'm still having to learn how to do, and in every level of my life. In corporate America, I know what it takes to have a strong goal achievement drive, right? I try to instill that into everybody that I'm around. So that level of intensity is a result of me learning how to continue to drive excellence, So I always say progress, not perfection, as long as you, and that's what I tell Devin. I said, you want to do something every day, don't let that day go by, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, right? Oh, dad, but I will not back down. And that's that parents, sometimes we give up. We take the line of least resistance, right? You only get one shot at this, right? Right? You only get one shot at it. Parenting gets hard as the kids get older, okay? And then it gets easier because they begin to parent you.
Yeah.
Like you do me. So, I just wanted to kind of back up because I think that's a good topic for parents and kids as their kids are growing. Once you expose them to sports, now all of a sudden, you see that, okay, now they can make a choice. Because what happens, again, you get a lot of what you call passive aggressive things where coaches will say, okay, you can play that sport, but when you come back to my sport, you're going to be behind.
Yeah.
Right. That happens a lot. And that parents don't fall into that trap, until the kid recognize that this is a sport I want to play. Because we'll get into later on the percentages of kids who get recruited, and the percentage of kids that go to college, the percentage of kids that play professional football, because it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that, and I told you this yesterday, we talked about this last night, but at the end of the day, these coaches and these people that are telling you that you should do this and that you should put your money this way and you should go to this camp, you should go to that camp. End of the day, they aren't part of your family core. They're not part of your circle. Right. And they're not going to go with you to the top. They're supposed to be a resource that helps you along the way and then eventually drops off and you move on to the next resource.
Right.
They should have no say or strong dictation of where your family goes, where your family plays, where your family spends its time. If your kid wants to play 2 sports, your kid can play 2 sports. That's your kid, not theirs. No one has the power to dictate what happens really in a kid's development, but the kid.
Yeah, that's so. That's the great message, for those out there. We have experienced it all, and I think, for me, it wasn't about control. It was about creating the right culture for you.
Right.
But I also knew that once you
got to high school, you had one of the greatest high school coaches,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Tony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn how to, okay, I'm passing her on, okay? And he coached you probably harder than I ever coached you.
Yeah.
And then you went to Coach P at Duke, right?
Yeah.
And as a parent, I had to kind of sit back and now I had to let you get out of the way and I had to let you learn for yourself, right?
Right. And I think that that's not something that's easy.
No, it's not.
Not something that comes naturally. It took you maybe to my mid sophomore year of
Mm-hmm.
college for you to really just like back up and kind of just let me make my own decisions and make me decide how I wanted to play in the game, how I wanted to have my career. And I made a decision to talk about burnout and kind of dive into that a little bit. I made a decision when I got to college. It's like I want this to be my 4 years, and then that's probably going to be it.
Mm.
And I think that it wasn't because of anything that happened in my childhood. It wasn't. I just got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of this chapter. Time for the next.
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't in by my junior year. I kind of knew strongly. Then my senior year, I had a little doubts. It was like maybe I can play overseas, but then I was like, I play overseas, and I still would be kind of just like going through the motions, and it wouldn't be as personal as college basketball, which is really the most personal level there is because you get to the professional level, you're very independent. The child level, everybody's kind of moving through different programs. You don't have time to make relationships. Colleges, you're with those four people. They're part of your life. They're part of your family. You live by their philosophy of a program. You buy into the philosophy. You sell the philosophy. It's in your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what I really loved about that point in my life was I was part of something, the one that was bigger than me. It was a community. It was a family, but also because I loved being a great teammate. I loved being a great leader. And that's something that I naturally am pretty good at. But at that level, I realized this is okay for me. This right here. My goal in life right now is to win these games. My goal in life is try to get this team as far as I can because right now that's what makes me happy. And I think that you started to see that no, the more I talked, because you weren't like the world's like super dad in college. You still were like, shoot the ball. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
you used to call me after games, and I used to just not pick up sometimes, and I'd be
Right.
like, oh, like, no, that's over.
Right.
And then you started to see that I was more on the personal side of it. I was more on the people side of the development and my process and the stories that were being told and who I can help. And that type of thing was more important to me. And it was starting to I was becoming more like a humanitarian out of nowhere. I don't even know what
Right.
happened,
Right. Right.
but it was like, how can I help this person now instead of on the court? How can I help this? It was more like instilling confidence and being a great person, being a great teammate, being a great leader. And when you started to see that, then you started to have the same mindset as me. It's like,
Right.
well, how can you help so and so with this? And then me and you were both in that schedule. We're both
Right.
understanding, like, okay, Faith doesn't really care about going to the next level anymore because she's kind of like ready for the next big thing. And I think that one thing that kind of got me to that point was the constant scheduling, the constant run from this thing to this thing. That kind of got me to college, which is like that amps up to another level where I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Right.
And then I don't remember. I don't think I like. When did I tell you that? I feel like I don't really remember, but like I just remember it was at one point I was like, I am not interested.
You know what? Just about that time, your sophomore year
Mm-hmm.
was probably the year I struggled the most. But then all of a sudden it began to click for you,
Yeah.
right? Where I had to get out of the way and let you, and I would say, you need to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Well, while you were figuring it out, I was figuring it out because not only were you going through the basketball, but you were still going through other stuff. You were growing spiritually. You
Yeah.
were still growing physically. Your body was still transforming into just who you are. I mean, you went there. You were able to do what, 25 push-ups,
21.
21 push-ups. You ended up doing how many?
91.
91. So I had to sit back and let you, the things that I was teaching and things I was preaching. I had to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
I look in the mirror. I said, okay, the things that you are teaching, you need to process and give yourself that same advice. And it was humbling, but it was part of me being that hashtag girl dad is, learning, right? And for me to come to your game, and they used to try to sit me right behind the bench, right?
Move.
That wouldn't work.
But it's funny though, because people understand like when you go to college games, you can't just move.
Right? Not at Duke, you can't.
So one, you've never come to a game less than an hour early. Right. You've always been there an hour early. I didn't even know they let people into Cameron Indoor Stadium that early. But like we come out for warm-ups and you're already up there with Devin, and you could see Devin just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like we've gotten to the next level. Why are we still pulling this same mess? Like people understand. Like you used to be there an hour early. Devin had this look on his face like, this is ridiculous. I don't want to be here. And then we would like kind of start warm-ups because in college you have hour warm-ups. And then like you'd be in the spot like in the middle. The thing about in college, people have season tickets, so you would have to move back down to like right before in behind the bench. And that's great though, because at that time me and you had like a good relationship where like we were okay with what was happening. Like right. I would like turn around, look at you on the bench, like, did you just see that? Like
right.
It was like we were more friends then because you understood like Faith don't care about if like I played the first 2 quarters and I'm not in the third quarter yet. Like she don't care.
Right.
She'll get in eventually. It's kind of like, and I think that also you started to trust the hands that I was in.
That's it. That was key.
Yeah, and at first, while you and Coach B had a relationship, and this is something you don't know, I can say this, like Coach B really there's very few parents like college coaches speak to, but like you were one of the ones that like you were not a problem. You never caused me issues. You never called Coach P. Really, you like were just like her Facebook friend. You were like the perfect ideal parent for college coaches. And now that I'm in college offices and I'm in the college coach, I can say that like you were like an anomaly. Like you did everything you should have done as a college coach. I mean, as a parent for college coaches. And that's why I think the more you trusted her and the more you trusted me, and you trust the people I was around, and you form these relationships, which you say is important, you were able to kind of just let go and just let God and let go.
Yeah. And I say that, and that's powerful because as I went through it, parents that are listening to this, you'll go through it too, and maybe if it's just a middle school ball, or maybe just a high school ball, or maybe just, it all translates the same. Yeah. Get out of the way. Okay. Now also identify, and this kind of bridges us to the next topic because there's a million topics that we'll talk about. But when is it a time to, if you really are passionate about the sport and the environment that you're in is not a good environment, when is a good time to move from one sport to another or transfer from one school to another? What are some of the variables that would cause parents to do that, because it is their right to do it?
Right, and we did it.
Yeah,
we did it with me, and then we did it with Devin.
Right.
I think that, and I told you this last night, and I was very direct with it. It takes a lot of self-evaluation and like soul searching to really make the decision. Like if you are transferring, or you are switching programs, or you are moving yourself from a place to challenge yourself better, play against better athletes, be in a better academic situation, be closer to family, etc. Those are positive. And if they are child-led, where the child decides, okay, mom, dad, I don't really know if I'm getting better here. Can we go to this school? How does that look for us financially? Can we make the change? Okay. Or I don't feel safe in the place I'm at. I don't feel comfortable in the safe space I'm in. Can we please move to a safer space? Okay. But as parents, the moment you start thinking the idea, okay, my kid needs to go somewhere else, that's when you need to sit there and look in the mirror and be like, okay, is my kid good enough for that? Is my kid the problem? Are they a giver or are they a taker? At the end of the day, is my kid providing something positive for the people that are around, the program and the situation they're in? Or are they taking away? Are they draining energy? Are they not giving their full commitment to the situation where they won't get the best out of what they're in? Now, when you can answer those questions, I feel like people don't.
Right.
You take your blinders off and you kind of see the truth and who your kids are and who you are, then you can make a strong, smart decision. But if you are that taker and your kid is not giving their all, their kid is not committed, it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter. I've seen people...
Right. 3-4 schools, 3-4 programs.
That's something people do because they can't figure out what the problem is. The problem is probably you. Okay? If your kid, though, comes to you, and this is like the best part of sports because this means they're mature enough to identify the situation they're in. If your kid comes to you and they say, hey, I want to get better. I want to play against better competition. We transferred because we wanted to play against better competition. We were able to go and travel for trips in Christmas. We traveled for trips in the fall. We played against 1, 2, 3 in the country. We did stuff like that when I was in high school.
Right.
Before we were at a school, the farthest we went was down the road for a Christmas tournament. We made the jump because we wanted the resources. We wanted the eyes. And we wanted to see who else at my age is better than me.
Right.
That was what it was. We wanted to be in. We wanted to sit at the table. It wasn't that we want to be at the head of the table because we are the boss of the table. No, that's never been us. We want to sit at the table because we want to challenge ourselves. We want to get better. And at the end of the day, Faith, you weren't good enough in this situation. Okay, self-reflection. That's who we are. Now, Devin, we wanted Devin to have an opportunity. We wanted Devin to have opportunity to show and gain his confidence and get some experience. Devin switched schools. One, we moved back home. Okay. We moved back to where family was. We moved back where people who loved us, who we grew up with, where mom, everything. We went back there. And that was the best thing for Devin because one, Devin is a genius and it doesn't matter where we place him, he's going to excel academically. Great. Cool. We can trust our kid. He's good in that situation.
Right.
Two, he was able to be in a starting position, in a captain position for 2 years of key development time in his life. So he grew confidence-wise, he grew maturity-wise, his body grew, he's committed to Yale on a full scholarship.
Right.
At the end of the day, I feel like that was a successful transfer.
Right.
Okay. Right. At the end of the day, Devin's a giver.
Right.
Devin can come home and be like, so-and-so did this, and they looked at me sideways, and we'll look at him and be like, well, did you tell them the right thing? Did you handle it the right way as a leader? And he hates it because no one's on his side. Right. But at the end of the day, that's who his circle is. It's very real. It's very honest because by us doing that, it shows we care. We will never have or push him or move him somewhere where he's not going to excel or be challenged or grow as a young man. And I feel like that's so important. Is your kid growing as a person as well? Are they becoming a better person in this move? Or are you enabling them at the end of the day?
Enabling, yes. The parents don't see it. That's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, right? We've experienced, not only we experienced in high school, but you've experienced it in college, where some of the girls that you played against in high school are on their third school. Yeah. Right. I mean, and I like when you talk about, one of the things I'm so proud of is so I brag a little bit, but the scholar athlete portion of it. Mm-hmm. You went because it's a vehicle for you. Yeah. It's a vehicle for you. And it translates into, what you can do after college, So yeah, those are really good reasons. And again, so I look at myself in the mirror and I ask myself, did I do the right thing? Do I invest the money right? Did I do all those kind of things? And, I guess I have to look at how blessed I am to have. But for parents, some of the things that Faith shared with you, please digest it because you will see it. You will see it and you will be faced with that. Okay. When is the time to the situation that you're in and that's so bad when it says bad, but if it's bad because of someone else, Something that you can look at. But if it's bad because you are the problem,
Yeah.
okay, you really need to reflect on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we want to thank you guys for joining us this beautiful Friday of Faith Family Focus F3. We're really excited about this new series, Make You a Champion. We want you all to share any ideas or questions you want covered. Is there anything you think about? Do you have a story you want to share? Reach out. We will share it. We will maybe bring you on the show. We'll come back to you on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we will cover how to navigate collegiate recruiting process, which is something we just wrapped up with Devin, and how to get that to that point as a family when you dream for the next level. Again, thank you for joining us at F3, and we want to use our faith as a vehicle to help and heal and sustain others on their own path to strengthening the family core.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great weekend.